In this video, I'm gonna break down how I took this night portrait at the movie theater using 3 lights and color gels. At the end of the video, I'm gonna show you why I did a 2-shot photo process in order to remove the beauty dish from the final photograph. Before we start, I do want to talk about today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative people on topics including photography, productivity, business, and more. Make great use of your downtime and check out Skillshare's online classes, which include a combination of video lessons and class projects. The class I recently enjoyed watching was Outdoor Photography, See, Shoot, Share, The Beauty Around You by Min. The big takeaway from this class is that it taught me how to look around the environment for graphic shapes, angles, and lines, and that's what I want to do in my portrait photography. I want to combine what I learned and include those graphic elements into my portrait photography. Now is the perfect opportunity to start learning new skills. For everything Skillshare offers, it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. The first 1,000 people who click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Before we get to the final results, I do want to show you what process led up to that final photograph, because there was a few mistakes as we were shooting. So the first spot that we chose, we originally wanted to use a car, but that didn't work out after all because, well, we didn't have the vehicle first and foremost. But I also noticed when we were shooting, we were just way too far away from the movie theater. So we were getting a lot of unwanted black in the photograph. And we had this gorgeous color in the background. And I felt like we needed to take advantage of that instead of being so far away. So immediately we scrapped that idea and we started to move in closer. For the next series, I decided to move a little bit closer so we can take advantage of that color in the background, as well as get some more bokeh. Because we were so far away, we weren't getting as much bokeh as I wanted. It was kind of just turning into a big colored light. And what I really wanted was to take advantage of all the lights in the background. But still, even getting in closer, I still was getting a lot of dark color to the side of the image. And what inspired me to get the final results was my friend Hector, because he was asking me, the day or two before, he was like, Eli, how do you get so much color in your photographs? And I was telling him, I was like, Hector, you need to shoot with the mindset of looking for color. So as I was getting this second shot in the second series, I didn't like that I had so much black in the image. It was just too dark, and I can't really color grade that in Photoshop. And on top of that, it was also making it look like it was like a green screened photograph where it looked like she was photoshopped into the environment and it wasn't blending as well as I wanted. And so throughout this process, it's important that you're gonna make mistakes as you're shooting, but you're trying to build up to the final photograph. It's kind of like a sketch. You do a lot of sketches and then it's gonna lead up to the final results, where then I got the idea of like, man, we need to get like a lot closer, because I gotta emphasize that color wasn't being taken advantage of enough. And so I really wanted the final photograph to really capture all the atmosphere, and being so far away and including all of the dark and the black in the image wasn't kind of going with my final concept in my head. Now that we moved in a lot closer, I finally had a composition that I was really happy with. So the key thing here was now setting up the lights, and I really wanted to add color gels because, well, we had all this color, but I wanted to add some rim lights. And so the orange gel and the red gel made the most sense because that was already included in our environment. So positioning them high up in the air, aimed down, was gonna also add nice rim light to the hair, but also to the ground. The 2 lights that I decided to use for my rim lights were the Westcott FJ400s, which are my favorite lights at the moment. And what I love about them is that they come with these magnetic reflectors, so it's very easy to use different colored gels and sandwich them in between the magnets. So I was also using the Rosco colored gel pack, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description if you guys are interested. And when you're using color gels, it's very important to understand where the light is gonna fall off, because I knew that I wanted it as rim lights and I didn't want any light spilling onto the face. If I had the lights positioned too much at 3 o'clock or in a split position, I'm gonna add color to the skin, which I didn't want. I wanted the face to be completely in shadow because that's where I'm gonna add my key light, which was the Westcott 24-inch Joel Grimes Beauty Dish. And that modifier is becoming one of my most favorite modifiers at the moment. If you put it in the right position, you can get some beautiful, gorgeous light. But when I'm using it outdoors, I like to use a Photoflex extra long Litereach Plus light stand, or monopod if you want to call it. And this is awesome because I can really boom it over the subject to get the light exactly where I want. And for the final results, I was using the Canon R5 with the 50mm Canon RF 1.2 lens. And the reason I was using this combo is that I wanted to rent the Canon R5 with my friend Roland. We wanted to see basically what the R5 was all about and would it be good for portraits. And if you want to know my quick first impressions, camera and lens combo was freaking amazing. I loved the camera. The autofocus was just super fast, like a Sony camera would be. And it was the sharpest photographs I've ever seen. And so if you don't believe me on the sharpness, I'm gonna leave a RAW file link in the description. You can download it and check it out for yourself. And if you even want to edit one of the photographs, go for it. Just tag me on Instagram. Now, because I rented the camera, I only had two choices for lenses, the 50mm and the 85. And if you know my work, you know I love to include the environment in the photograph. So the 50mm was really the only choice I had because the 85 was going to be too compressed. So the 50mm, in order to include most of the theater in the background, I had to shoot vertical. And so vertical was going to allow me to capture most of the environment opposed to shooting horizontal. The only problem with shooting vertical was now the beauty dish was going to show up in the final photograph. So this is where I knew I'm going to have to do a 2-photograph process. And what this 2-photograph process basically means is that I'm going to use the beauty dish. And remember, I emphasized that the beauty dish needs to be in a very specific area in order to get good results. So it needs to be nice and close. So because the light's nice and close, well, guess what? It's going to show up in the frame. So I'm going to have to take a photograph with the light in frame, of course. And then I'm going to tell my friend Marco to remove it from my frame as I'm shooting, so that the face is completely dark. And what I'm gonna now do is I'm gonna blend the two pictures together in Photoshop. So let's get to that right now. All right, now that we're about to get into Photoshop, we're here in Lightroom. And the reason why I'm using Lightroom is because Capture One, I only have it for my Sony camera. And of course I'm using the Canon R5, so I had to use Lightroom to import. Here you're gonna see, this is the photograph where I have the light in the frame. And so I get the lighting the way I want. I'm happy with it. I know obviously the light modifier is covering up Hollywood. This is where I'm going to tell my friend Marco, please remove it from the frame. Now I have my background template. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import them into Photoshop and layer them over one another. And I'm going to show you how to remove it. Now it's important in this process when you're taking the second shot, when you tell your assistant to move the light out of the frame, that you don't move too much. If you move too much, that is going to create a misalignment in the photograph. So in other words, la cague. You have to be kind of still. And I know some of you are going to say, Eli, why don't you just use a tripod? Hey, if you want to use a tripod, cool story, bro. Use a tripod, but I go freestyle. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and select this photograph here in Lightroom. I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard. I'm going to select the second one. I'm going to right click. And then I'm going to go photo merge, or where is it? Edit in, and then right here, open layers in Photoshop. I'm going to put open anyways, and then Photoshop will do its thing. So now that I have both photographs, they both need to be lined up. You'll notice that it's misaligned a little bit. I moved, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard to select both layers. So both of them now are selected. I'm going to go to Edit, and right here it says Auto Align Layers. I'm going to leave it set to Auto here. I'm going to hit OK. And Photoshop's going to do its best job to align all the edges with one another. And there you can see that it's aligned everything. Now, all of these little empty pixels is because I moved a little bit. And if you want, you can roast me in the comments and tell me you should have used a tripod. Go for it. So I'm going to get the crop tool. I'm going to clear this. And all I'm simply going to do is I'm going to bring this in just like this. And now I have that kind of set up. Let me lower it down just a little bit. There we go. So now that I have the light on the top of the frame, okay, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a layer mask. So adding a layer mask, you're going to get a little white box. That little white box means that this layer is still showing, still visible. But I'm going to get the black brush now, and I'm going to brush it so that I can just remove the lights, because that's the only thing we need to remove. So I'm going to get the brush now. Black brush. Now, if you guys want a more in-depth tutorial on how to do this, I already have one that I made like, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So I'll leave the link also in the description. So now that I have a black brush, I got to make sure I'm clicked on the layer mask. Brushing with black is going to hide that effect. And there we go. We now have the light completely removed. And now I can merge everything, layer, I can flatten the image. And now I can begin editing in Photoshop, doing my skin retouching, doing my color grading. And you're probably wondering, Eli, I want to see how you color grade. I just dropped my water. You guys are probably wondering, how do I do my color grading? How do I do my skin retouching? I already have tutorials on all of that. I have full edits. I think I have maybe like 12, 13 at this time. So check the rest out on my YouTube channel. Now is a good time to subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe so that you guys can see all of that content. And that concludes the video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, because that's where I post all of my behind the scenes content. And now I'm doing reels now. I was so. But yeah, I got to end this now because water's still spilling over here. My life is completely falling apart. Thank you guys for watching, and happy holidays.